How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Japanaholic podcast, the podcast surrounded by topics all about Japan, anime, and games discussed by one certified Japanaholic. I'm your host, Taylor Frey, and today I am back in my usual recording setup, studio, blah blah blah, instead of being upstairs like I was in the past few Saturday episodes, where I've discussed, like last Saturday, where I discussed mangas that I've been reading that should get anime adaptation. Today there's been some new things that have come from the Japan economy that could shape the future for how streaming anime could happen. The biggest news that's come out of the entire month of August is that the ever so famous streaming service KissAnime was shut down for copyright reasons, of course. And KissAnime has been such a huge streaming thing for like, 15 or so many years? I mean, like, not really a whole lot, that much, but at the same time, it was massive, okay? KissAnime was massive for, trying to watch any anime shows, like, ever, okay? And, today, I just want to discuss what the future holds for not only the copyright part of watching anime, and I kind of just want to also go over some of the, things that I've seen on Twitter where people are either talking about streaming services or just, giving their thoughts and opinions on streaming services and stuff like that, and pirating, torrenting, and that whole process, I'll say. Okay, now before we get into, discussing my thoughts and stuff like that, okay, going on to the topic of KissAnime, have I ever used the website before? I actually have on a few occasions used it, but I don't think I've used KissAnime a little bit. I can't remember what I watched it for again, or what anime I watched it for again. I think it was because most times, most OVAs, or most, bonus episodes or something like that aren't available on the streaming service that I watch a lot, which is VRV, which if not a whole lot of people know. If you don't know what VRV is, it's basically Crunchyroll and HiDev combined into one. It used to have been Crunchyroll, HiDev, and Funimation, I think it was, or it was just Crunchyroll and Funimation, if I remember correctly. It was one of those two, and Funimation, got out of it. So back then, that was like the fucking streaming service to go if you were paying for it, because you got 2 in 1. So it's not that expensive, actually. It's only like $8 a month, I think, if I remember correctly. But I've never used KissAnime to watch entire anime series. I've actually used another website that was called 9anime. I don't know if that service is still up. I think it still is, if I remember correctly. But I used that streaming service to watch the first season of the Haganai series, which was this was at the time when I did not have Funimation, by the way. Because for the longest time I only had VRV, and I did not use Funimation because I didn't really think I needed Funimation for most series that I wanted to watch. And then I wanted to watch Steins Gate and Haganai, but those two series I couldn't find on Crunchyroll, or not VRV, same thing kind of, but they didn't have it on there, so I had to go use either Funimation or 9anime. And I watched the first season of Steins Gate on 9anime, and then I used VRV to watch the second season because there was I don't know why this is, but the second season of Steins Gate's on VRV, but the first season is not. I don't know why that is. I seriously don't get that. If you're gonna have the entire series on, if you're gonna have a series on there, you gotta have the entire series, not just one season, especially the second season, if it's only that. So I don't understand why it was like that, but I had to watch the first season on a pirating website, which was stressful. It is stressful if you don't have an ad blocker. I'll admit that a lot. And it's even more stressful when you wanted to create an account on that website, but you couldn't access the account with the ad blocker on. So I guess that's a really creative way of not having, or that's a really creative way of having people not have ad blockers onto their systems or whatever, onto the website. So there's that. The moral of the story is I never really use those streaming services unless the series is not on either VRV or on Funimation. There are some series that, you know, that I could probably start watching that are on those series. On those websites. I don't know why I said series. Sorry. But the new copyright rule in Japan is probably going to change how we watch some of these shows. Not just here, like, in the United States, but also, like, all around the world. Because I talk about these streaming services, like Crunchyroll, Funimation, VRV, you know, I talk about these streaming services because of the fact that it's available here in America and in the United Kingdom and in some other places around the world. I can't name off all of the places off the top of my head. I only know those two. I think Canada has it, if I remember correctly, so maybe 3, but I could be wrong, because I haven't really looked into, like, where they're available. But the only, you know, the massive problem is that that's just, like, a small chunk of, like, places around the world. And for the past many years now, I want to say like 5 years, but mainly like the last 3 years, anime has gotten super popular. Okay, massively popular all around the world. Okay, not just here in the States, but also in like places like India, places in like Russia, Mexico, Canada, even, just to name off a few countries. Basically, all the countries have seen a spike in anime viewership or whatever. And the problem that many of those countries face is that they don't have a streaming service like Crunchyroll or Funimation to watch the shows on. They have to rely on these services like 9anime or KissAnime in order for, you know, them to watch anything really. And I have to say, like, this new copyright thing will change how people can watch all around the world, okay? And I've seen a lot of people who live in other countries that do not have, like, Crunchyroll or Funimation, where they're like, well, how else are we going to watch it? Because the issue that comes with trying to use Crunchyroll or trying to use Funimation is the fact that all of their subscriptions are in US dollars, which many times you can convert over, because I know there's been many times where you can buy stuff from Japan using US money. It would just automatically convert itself over to yens, but in many cases that does not happen, and you know, you're just SOL, you know, you're shit out of luck when it comes to trying to watch anime on these services. And necessarily, I believe that's just, I don't know how I could fix this, fix that if I was Crunchyroll or Funimation, to be honest. It's difficult to, like, give your service available to every country ever. It's difficult, okay? Like, it's kind of like how YouTube is with their copyright system. If you show, like, one thing that's copyrighted from, like, Japan, okay, like Sony, like it's Sony Music, for example. If you show something from Japan that's, like, from Sony Music or Warner Brothers Japan or whatever, it's just immediately taken off YouTube in Japan, and you can't watch it. And I put my, I don't know why I did this, to be honest. I put my YouTube's location in Japan just so I can, you know, just so I can see, you know, all the content that isn't available, not only, like, not only in Japan because, you know, we copyright rules there, but I wanted to see what Japan content would not be shown in America because it's not available here or whatever. And there's a lot of content that I found where it's available in Japan but nowhere else, okay? And vice versa, where it's like it's available in the States and everywhere else, but not Japan because, you know, of course, copyright. And my channel is no exception. There is a bunch of videos where, you know, unfortunately this happens, like I said, because of the copyright rules in Japan, where even though it's a small portion, a small video, small audio clip, small anything. If it's copyrighted, it's mostly going to get blocked in Japan. And that's not a huge issue, like a very huge issue, but the fact that I've actually had viewers from Japan in the past, like, 4 weeks now that I think about it. Just say month, Taylor. Just say month. But the fact that I've had Japan viewers in the past month or whatever watching something from my content means that, there's some people in Japan that do want to watch my content, okay? So, it's not like here, like, it's not like the percentage here in the United States where it's obviously high, because that's kind of like where a lot of people watch YouTube, and a lot of people watch, like, mainly English YouTube or podcast or whatever. It's not a surprise. United States is, like, top on everybody's, like, demographic board or whatever, unless they're completely in a different language, and their target demographic is completely different. But that's just what I've noticed, at least. But to go back on the topic of, like, the copyright stuff and stuff like that for anime and international viewers, it's now going to be even more difficult to watch anime shows and stuff like that, because of the fact that you won't be able to access the streaming services such as Crunchyroll or Funimation, unless you use a VPN, which not a lot of people will do. I will say, like, maybe 80% of otakus that are, 80% of international otakus, they will probably use a VPN if they really, really, really want to watch anime. But using a VPN just takes a whole lot more steps, and getting, like, a professional VPN like Norton or Express, or just to name off like a small few, you'll really have to spend a little bit of money for this. And most otakus aren't capable of spending that much money, I'll be honest, okay? Because many of them are, like, just entering their teen years, or just about ready to exit their teen years. But, many of them still will probably spend, like, $10 a month for a freaking VPN service, just to then go and spend another $10 a month on streaming services and stuff like that. That's $20 a month for anime. I mean, a lot of people already, and this is, like, the biggest thing I've seen when it comes to, like, what's it called? Streaming services. Mind gone blank, thank you. But this is the biggest complaint that I've came across when it comes to streaming services, is the fact that it's expensive, or it's, cost money and stuff like that to watch anime and stuff like that. And I will, okay, so as somebody who pays for streaming services like Funimation and VRV, but, like I said before, it's Crunchyroll and 9nav, so, but I think I may say Crunchyroll on my instance because of the fact that it's easier to say than VRV. But anyways, I pay for those two every month, and while it is about, like, $10 a month, I still see the reason why a lot of people complain about the fact that the streaming services are completely, like, unnecessary to buy or whatever, okay? Because of the fact that you're paying, many dollars a month to watch, like, a specific, like, I will admit, there is a bunch of anime shows and series and stuff like that in the catalog of Crunchyroll and Funimation, obviously. But, when you can get that same amount, that same size catalog, but even bigger, for free, on a website, all you really have to deal with is a bunch of hot singles in your areas kind of ads. I mean, possibly that's just more of a fair trade-off, I guess. That's a fair trade-off. I mean, if you also want to use an ad blocker to get rid of the ads completely, you can, but most websites nowadays are becoming self-aware of people using ad blockers, and they're like, all right, listen here, boy, you gotta turn your ad blocker off, or else you cannot see some anime titties. So, I have unfortunately had experienced that before when it comes to those ad blockers. They are useful, but they're also not very useful on many different websites, and it happens, So if you can use an ad blocker on a website, that's good. If not, then I don't. If there's any international viewers watching, wondering where they should turn to if they use KissAnime, or if their favorite service, whatever, got shut down, I don't know, because I've never really gone into using like those kinds of services. Um, Especially because there's no need for me to, but I don't know. A lot of people will also say, oh, like, oh, just torrent this stuff. It's like, torrenting is, I've never done torrenting, actually. So I don't know how the process works. I know a lot of people say it's, like, easy. A lot of people say it's, like, really difficult. It's, like, a mixed bag. I don't know. I've never done torrenting, okay, ever. Like, anything I've ever gotten illegally, like pirating and stuff like that, I've gotten off shady-ass websites from the dark web. Well, not on the dark web. That part was a lie. But, yeah, shady websites, yes. They were Soft Tonic, for example. But, so, and then there's also complaints about how Crunchyroll and Funimation treat their employees, or they treat their staff, and they don't care about like the whole anime stuff. They're just doing it for the money or whatever. And there's been a lot of people who obviously, can see it this way. And of course, the like translators and the people who actually do the subtitling and stuff like that, they get paid just as much as an animator does in Japan, which, if you don't know about the wages of animators and stuff like that in Japan, holy shit, it's fucking low. It's like, and I mean stupidly low. I mean stupidly low for how much work an animator's supposed to do, okay? And that is a story for another episode, because if I get into like how wages work and stuff like that, that would take me another half hour that I don't really want to get into this week. But I probably will get into that soon, because of the fact that wages are a huge thing in anime, especially for like people who really love studios and like really love to like go in depth and do like research on how anime is like made and stuff like that. I know a lot of otakus probably like don't give a shit what studio makes what, as long as something's made and it's on their TV screen with subtitles that they can look at, or not if they're really good at Japanese. Jealous. I envy those kind of people, but that's just me. But for someone like me, I don't know if I honestly can't be the only one, but there's a part of me that thinks I am with my level, where it's like, before I watch a show on Crunchyroll or on Funimation, I check the seiyus on who plays who and check their backlog. I check the studio to make sure I know what I'm getting my ass into. I don't check reviews, because most reviews are spoilers. So I'm like, all right, I'll give my own reviews at the end of this series, but I just want to get like a good taste of what I'm going to be experiencing, because I've listened to so much Japanese for the past like year and a half now on anime, where I can almost distinguish a lot of seiyus' voices from each other. It's not difficult for me to like point out, say, oh yeah, I think I've heard that character before. Sounds extremely familiar. Checks. Oh, exactly who I thought it was. There's been a ton of instances where it's like that, but that's just how I do it. Okay. But to go back onto the copyright stuff. For everybody who's watching anime outside of the United States and the United Kingdom, it's gonna be tough to watch these anime shows unless it's on like Netflix or Hulu. I don't know if Hulu's available outside the United States. I don't think so, but I know Netflix is. So obviously, if there's anime on Netflix, you got anime on Netflix. You can watch it from there. But it's such a, like, Netflix's anime catalog, while it is expanding, like every month or every other month, they expand like a lot of shows. Like they added Toradora not too long ago, which is, I already watched it, but I'm really freaking happy they did that. But their catalog is still pretty small, to the point where it's like, if Netflix is all you're going to do, if all you're going to use Netflix for is anime, which is not the number one thing I would use Netflix for, but if that's you, then it's not worth it, to be honest. But outside of the United States, the whole streaming side of the whole streaming side of anime, it may go down quite a bit. I do expect to see a lot of these websites to go down like pretty much one after the other. Like, bam, there goes 9anime. Bam, there goes this website or this website. There goes that one. Bam and bam and bam, like a freaking revolver. You know, just shooting off bullets one after the other. Okay. And that's for anime, but there's one part of me that is, I'm terrified for this, okay? Because the whole anime side is, you know, everybody knows about the anime side. The manga side scares the hell out of me because there is a ton of websites that have mangas fully translated that you can quickly just click and read just like that and snap in like several clicks of a mouse or whatever, or tap on the phone, whatever you're on. But it worries me because I have no idea if those websites are going to be down. Now, many websites, or can I say, I think I could say this makes sense, but there are many websites where you could buy the same manga chapter and stuff like that, okay? Like Bookwalker or Barnes and Nobles or Amazon. Amazon sells these digitally translated chapters. Pretty cool. But these chapters and these series, let's just say, I don't think it's worth spending, that's just my opinion, I don't think it's worth spending $2 a flipping every freaking chapter, okay? Okay, especially if the series in question only has about like 10 pages a chapter. Like, if it's like $2, it's what, 50 cents, not 50 cents, excuse me, like 5 cents a page. I don't think it's worth it because I remember spending a little bit of money to read the last few chapters of Domestic Nakata Show when Manga Rock officially shut down, which hurt my soul in many ways than one, okay? And I think a lot of people will understand the reasons, okay? But for those who don't, there's many reasons why it hurt my soul. The first one being Manga Rock shut down, which was the biggest manga app ever. Like, ever, okay? Anybody who wanted to read mangas went on Manga Rock and bam, everything was there and simple. And it was, like, amazing. It was amazing for using, you know, for like reading mangas and stuff like that, okay? Because even though there were ads, those ads were like placed at the very bottom, and they're like a banner, like a small banner at the very bottom. So most times it was unnecessary. It was like you didn't really see it at most times. The second reason being that it flowed really well, okay? The menu, the UI, the menus, everything flowed really well, okay? So it was perfect for reading chapters. It was perfect for finding the newest mangas to read, especially if there was a lot of mangas that were being recommended to you. That's how I found a lot of these series that don't have anime adaptations that I probably talked about last week, was because of the fact that Manga Rock would recommend you pretty much the exact same manga, but also not the exact same manga, if you get what I'm saying. The second reason was because of the fact that it was Domestic Nakata Show, and the fact that the last few chapters, now reading back the series, yeah, it wasn't the greatest ending in the entire world. In fact, there was a little bit of like a why the fuck does this happen and stuff like that. But you know what? For it being a very long series and shit like that, I mean, the ending could have been like a whole lot worse, but it could have been a whole lot better. It was very mid, in my opinion. But yeah, Domestic Nakata Show is the second reason in general. And the third reason is because I spent money reading Domestic Nakata Show. Okay? Now, I get, okay, for anybody who, like, is listening to this that is all for Bookwalker and stuff like that, and the fact that it's, like, hurting the artist and stuff like that, I get that Bookwalker supports the officially, like, the official artist or storytellers or whatever, because not only do they have like mangas, they have light novels that you can buy and read, and it helps out the author a lot because it supports them in a big way. At least that's what I've heard. What's what I've heard. But I just find that if some people are able to read something, not waste money to read something, and if they are a fan of it, they will support the creators. I feel like it's a lot. It would help out. it would help out a lot if you get like a taste of something for free, like an entire chapter for free, or an entire like volume for free in this instance. And then if you're like, oh, I actually kind of like this, you go support the creator on either Twitter or their whatever they're on social media, and even buy a few things from, from their sites or whatever, or buy the chapters online where they could be, officially like supporting the authors or stuff like that. They always say that, but sometimes they don't. I mean, Crunchyroll says that sometimes, and Funimation says that sometimes. Can we believe them? Who knows? Unless you work at Crunchyroll or Funimation or wherever that says this, if you could confirm, then please. If not, then, I mean, I don't know. It's a little sketchy. Sketchy like a sketchbook, in my opinion. But, yeah, to go back on the copyright thing, it scares the hell out of me, because if these manga sites get shut down, not only are we going to lose the ability to like read these chapters that are ever so updated, like pretty much on the dime in our native language, whether it's English, German, Espanol, just to name a few. Not only will it be extremely difficult for us to read in our native language, but for those like mangas that have not caught their big break yet in terms of like their popularity, because of the fact that like, they're not serialized in like a magazine or whatever. They're just on a website, and when chapters come out, boom, there's, it's on the website, and the raws are on there, and you can quickly, translate it if you had a group of translators doing that sort of stuff. It's going like those kinds of series are going to be few far between where they get anywhere, okay? Because like I said before, there's been a ton of series, like manga series, that probably will not get an anime adaptation because they're not serialized, but their biggest hope is the fact that if they can get a ton of followers like online from people like reading it and so often, just getting curious and like, oh, I want to see what this series is about. Oh, it's actually pretty good. I'll share this out, get the word out that this series is good. That'll happen less often if these sites shut down because of copyright. Do I see them shutting down? I don't know. That's that's what I'm worried about. There's part of me that's like, oh yeah, they'll easily shut down. It's copyright, okay? It's like it's made by somebody who, especially if it's a serialized series in a magazine like Shonen Jump or Shoujo Jump magazine, it'll easily get taken down because of the fact that it's like in a copyrighted magazine. So like, boom, it's gonna get taken down. But then there's like part of me that's like, well, maybe some of these series that aren't serialized, probably like the original copyright like holders, like the artists or the authors, they'll probably be all like, fair game. If people want to read it, people want to read it. It helps me get my popularity out there. Who knows? I mean, I've never been an author. I've never been a mangaka. I've never been a light novelist, even though I really want to become all three of those. But it's tough to get your name out there when you don't really have a name in the first place. So your best bet is to have your stuff like, read out somewhere, okay? And have people support you from there. It's a tough life being in the anime industry when like being like a writer or something like that. It's tough. I'll admit it. It is tough. I mean, I don't know what else to say for like, as if there's a potential mangaka listening to this, they could probably agree with this, but maybe, who knows? I don't know if I'll have the same opinions or whatever as the listener currently listening to this. Possibly like 80% of what I'm saying could be, agreeable to the listener right now, or maybe I'm completely dead wrong and their opinions are probably a whole lot more different than me. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what the future holds entirely with the anime streaming services or manga services, because as much as I feel like a lot of sites are going to get shut down, I feel like there's going to be points where maybe some sites will stay up, and maybe streaming won't be as difficult as it was back in like 2010 or whatever. because it's easier now to find animes and watch animes now than what it was back then, obviously. Back then, you really had to either torrent or go on webs or like sketchy websites, because there was not like Crunchyroll back then until like 2007 or whatever, or there were 2006, excuse me, and you really had to rely on like torrenting sites and fan subs to really watch anime. Nowadays, we're pretty much spoiled with all this sort of stuff because we have these websites and we have these services that are dedicated to uploading anime series and, you know, officially translated versions of these series and stuff like that. The biggest thing I could say, though, is that no matter what changes, just try and support the series in some way, okay? Many mangas that are being translated now are being translated by like an officially translated group or whatever. Most of the time, you can find their like Discord page at the end of a manga chapter or two. You know, just support these people because it's difficult to make a living in the anime industry, whether you're a translator or, you know, going as far as to being a person writing a story or something like that, like a light novel or a manga. So if that is the case, just please like support them in some ways, okay? And like if you're wondering if you want to do a streaming service or something like that, or like if you want to pay for Crunchyroll or something like that, it's completely up to you. I'm not gonna say what I'm forcing you to do, okay? I can say my opinions all I want, but it's not facts, okay? Okay, sometimes it may be facts, but they are like said in an opinion style way, okay? Where it's like, I can say this, but unless I fact check it, I'm just, you know, spitting. I'm spitting out of my mouth. So, but I will say, like, for me, I've used like VRV. I've used Funimation. I have used streaming service websites, whatever the hell they're called, like KissAnime or whatever. I've used them before. Okay, I've used everything to watch anime before. Okay, so it's not like I'm just like wholeheartedly like, oh, go to a streaming service, pay like $10 a month for Crunchyroll, and fuck those websites. No, I'm not like that. Okay. Just use whatever you can, okay? If you find something that's convenient to you and you can like work around stuff, do it, okay? Because it's easier for me to use VRV on my Fire Stick TV upstairs, even though sometimes I feel like I'm in this huge state of drought, or like this huge state, excuse me, where I go a long time without watching anything because I don't know why. I'll have to talk about this kind of feeling soon, but it's that, and then there'll be times where I'm like, oh, I really want to read like mangas. I like want to read mangas. I want to watch anime. That kind of stuff. So I'll probably talk about that in the next few weeks. This is the last Saturday episode, by the way. Everything else is going to be just Wednesdays, like it usually was. I wanted to do a double upload for this month because of the fact that I was with my buddy Lee, or Malcolm Liat, and our podcast recording session went on for about 2 hours, which was about 4 episodes. And if you can tell by Wednesday's episode, I did not want to do another Wednesday episode, or I didn't want to do another Wednesday and Saturday upload schedule. I like doing one a week. Let me be honest. One a week is just fine. One a week is fine. Fine by me. So yeah, everything will be from Wednesdays from now on. So there's that. But I think that'll do it for this episode of the Japanaholic podcast. If you did enjoy this episode of the podcast, make sure to click the follow button, share this podcast out with your fellow Japanaholics, and pretty much thank you all for supporting this year. I can't speak. Thank you all so much for supporting this podcast, because I started this podcast back in like March, and never in my life did I think I would really make it this far in terms of doing a podcast, especially when it's one man. It is one man, and I do apologize still that it's like, it probably won't become like a two-man thing for a little while. Maybe that's fine for many people, but I know for a lot of other people, one-man podcasts are just not their thing. It's hard to reach the perfect demographic of, of an audience. So there's that. But anyways, thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Japanaholic podcast. Tune in next Wednesday. We'll do it all over again. But for now, guys, I've been Taylor Frey, certified Japanaholic, signing off. Good night. Don't fucking copyright claim.